Good.
All right. Welcome into the Your Illini Nation pregame show live from Piscataway, New Jersey. Andy Olson, Derek Piper with you, hitting the road for the first time this season, Derek. And it starts the big one. Big Ten play getting started. The rack should be popping on this Saturday afternoon here on the East Coast. And it should be a good game today, Derek.
Absolutely. This is one of the best environments in the Big Ten. We saw some fans out there in the parking lot tailgating for this one. I was talking to a Rutgers reporter. He said, I haven't seen that here in a long time. Yeah. So expecting a juiced-up environment. They know that these teams really respect each other. They've had some good battles through the years. Illinois lost their last 3 trips to the rack. We were talking about it, earlier in the day. I think it's a top 5 building in the league right now, just in terms of how tough it is to come in here, how loud it can get. And it's a tough place to start your Big Ten conference slate, but also a good opportunity. It's possible. I don't know what type of season Rutgers will ultimately have. They are replacing a lot of pieces. If you haven't stayed as in tune maybe with them through the offseason, losing Paul Mulcahy, losing Caleb McConnell as Defensive Player of the Year in the Big Ten, and then Cam Spencer, a shooter that they brought in as a transfer, he didn't transfer to UConn. So the one familiar face that a lot of people are going to know is Cliff Amori, one of the better bigs in the Big Ten, but I just expect Illinois to really get tested today. Probably a lower scoring, 2 of the best defenses out there, at least so far, as far as statistically goes. But it's one of those, better show up to fight and be tough. And that whole Pizza Hut parking lot thing that Brad went on was actually after Illinois lost the last time they played here. They got punked, beat up on the glass, and Brad was not happy. So we'll see if they're ready for a fight today.
Should be a fun one indeed. It's an interesting stretch coming up for the Illini. These next 3, very important. You have the Big Ten opener here in New Jersey, and then you're staying on the East Coast because you go to Madison Square Garden on Tuesday to play number 13 Florida Atlantic. It doesn't get any easier after that. And then you go on the road to Knoxville to play the number 10 Volunteers, Derek. Those are 3 really big games. And we talked about earlier today how important it is to, at the very least, get one of those games. And this one might be the most gettable out of those 3.
Yeah, I think in terms of the rosters compared to each other, I think that this is the one that I would point to and say that Illinois has the best chance to win of the next 3. Florida Atlantic took a tough loss to Bryant earlier in the season, but since then have reeled off about 90 points a game. John L. Davis and Elijah Martin are a really, really good backdoor duo that can go, light it up in terms of their scoring ability. And I think they'll test Illinois' guards in that sense. And then Tennessee, they're kind of licking their wounds a little bit. They've gone through a gauntlet, having taken 3 straight losses, playing against Purdue, Kansas, North Carolina. I'm sure they will be very, very amped up and hungry when Illinois marches into town a week from today. So, it's important in terms of your start to conference play. I think Illinois' beginning of that conference slate, it's not maybe the toughest in the world, but it's not easy either. You're going to return to Big Ten play in January, play Northwestern at home, then go to Purdue. Northwestern, of course, beating the Boilermakers last night there in Evanston. Then you get Michigan State, you get Maryland, who's not playing very well. But you always want to start off on the right foot in conference play. And I think as you look at your 4 marquee games in the first 2 months of the season, you would look at Marquette. Obviously, you lost a close one. This game, FAU, Tennessee. I'll throw Missouri in there, but I think it's a little bit more on the outside. You definitely don't want to go on 0-4. You'd love to win definitely 1, if not 2. And I'm not counting out a clean sweep, but obviously that would be a daunting task.
Yeah.
But it starts today, and we'll see if they can get it done.
All right, we're talking about the season in general, but let's talk about personnel now. A very important figure back for the Illini, Coleman Hawkins, not listed on the injury report. He was out here taking shots before they went back into the locker room. Derek, that's a pretty big get back for the Illini after he missed the last couple of games.
It is, yeah, and hopefully he's feeling better in terms of the knee. I know that he was dealing with a lot of soreness and seemed like his mobility was hampered in terms of that goes, and just someone that was trying to play through it. I know Brad mentioned to us that he's kind of been dealing with this tendonitis issue in his knee since the summer. It got to a point where it was bothering him so much that Brad actually made the call and said, hey, we need to rest you. We need to get you right. We got a soft spot in our schedule to be able to do that. So how much has that benefited him in terms of his ability to move and play through extended minutes and put that pressure on it? And then can he play well? He was not playing well prior to sitting out post Marquette. So can he be more emotionally and focused in terms of like positive energy and helping a team, and then just production-wise, making shots and not turning the ball over, not making the mistakes defensively that are pretty uncharacteristic for him based on kind of what we saw. So a huge return. We know that Coleman really keys a lot of what Illinois does. I think with Amori being a guy that's a really good rim protector, if Coleman can pull him away from the basket and really challenge him with that pick and pop, we'll see. It's kind of that game-by-game judge. Does Coleman have the three going today or does he not? He's been a streaky shooter. We'll see how that goes. I wonder how the layoff has affected him. I think he'll probably be fresh, but will he be in sync? That's one thing I'd wonder about.
And Dayton Danger has done a great job in the starting lineup in Coleman Hawkins' absence, but I feel like, Derek, you got to put him back in the starting lineup just because of who Coleman Hawkins is.
That's what I would do, too. Yeah. I think that Brad will have the best judge of how he's been playing in practice and how that looks, but I would probably expect him to be in that lineup. And just know, again, like, defensively, covers a lot of ground, has good versatility, and then from an offensive standpoint, he's another playmaker. And we'll get into it. Like Rutgers defensively right now, top 15 in the country in their metrics. They turn you over a lot. So I think, and then with their ball pressure, they can really get into you and disrupt your offense. We know that Coleman is a connector, a playmaker is going to help a team that doesn't have a true point guard. So I think that, he's obviously a leader and one of the relied upon veterans on this team. And I think Brad would go back to him, although I will give the nod. I mean, I think Dane has played well of late. Competition not very good, but also should be noted that had a pretty nice game against Rutgers last year in Champaign. I think 17 points, 8 boards. Really, I think outplayed Cliff Amori on the whole, and that was kind of a light bulb going off moment last year for like, okay, Dane could be one of the better bigs in the Big Ten if he's consistent and put it together. Still kind of waiting for that, but I think it's good that he's gotten confidence and momentum here recently.
For sure. And Brad Underwood has talked about being able to play those two together. And when Dane's playing good, how important that is to also have Coleman out there, as for all of the reasons that you've said, everything that Coleman brings just complements in a way what Dane can do down low, and maybe unlock some things for the Illini at this point. I'm sure they're still searching for every lineup, every situation, and for each of those. So I can't imagine that they'll have it all figured out now, but I wouldn't be surprised if we see those two working together, being in the same lineup today. But I think you're right. Coleman probably has to start in this one. As far as these last few games, like we said, Dane did an incredible job this time in the starting lineup. You mentioned, though, not exactly Big Ten level competition with the teams coming in, Valparaiso, Southern, and Western Illinois. But for you, Derek, from watching those games, is there something that you take away from that stretch where they were able to bounce back from the Marquette game and just rattle off 3 wins that really they should have had?
Yeah, I love the way that Luke Goody's been shooting it. I mean, he's made at least 3 threes in 4 straight games, so he had to go into that Marquette game as well, but really been able to build off of that. And I think he's a legitimate, bona fide knockdown shooter. I think we wonder going into the year, would Illinois have one of those? If so, how many? It probably wasn't going to be very many. But Luke has been that. And for a Rutgers team that defends exceptionally well around the basket, they can test around the rim and in the paint so well, it could be tough to score inside the arc. And I think they'll really key on Terrence Shannon. I'll say that he can't have a great game. He's, in my opinion, the best player on the floor today, and probably will be in a lot of Big Ten matchups. But Luke's ability to shoot from the outside can really give you that balance that I know you talk about sometimes with a gravity shooter, a guy that forces a defense to play you honest and not just cheat off of you and come into the lane, just cause so much congestion. So I think I really like the way that he's been playing. I would, on the negative side, I'd like to get Marcus Damasco. I think he played really well against Marquette, but since then has not been having his best showings. And I'm not too concerned overall. Like, he's shooting, he's a 36% career three-point shooter coming in. I think he's a guy that will get that going. Made some maybe uncharacteristic turnovers and some effort on the glass that Brad wants better of. So you want to see him bounce back in that sense as they're pushing forward today. I think rebounding is another area that I would look at and say that Brad kind of harped on. He wants more and more offensive boards out of this team. Thinks they're very capable of that. I think about Quincy Guerrier's rebounding ability. Had 15 boards the last time out. Ty Rogers can get second chance opportunities. Obviously, a number of other guys. He likes, and the numbers show that they really up their level of production on the glass. And if there's one thing I'm going to nitpick and say Rutgers doesn't do all that well defensively, it's defensive rebound. They're giving up a lot of second chance opportunities. I think that's one thing that Illinois could really use to swing this game in their advantage. If they can capitalize on that and really get it done on that sense.
Yeah, you may have heard it. Illinois back out onto the court, onto the locker room. Smattering of boos from the Rutgers student section that is already in here in Jersey Mike's Arena. No longer the rack.
The Jersey guys aren't respecting that this is the home of Tommy DeVito.
I know.
Maybe a bigger salute. Maybe the talk of this area.
I have seen some orange and blue in the stands. I don't know if Tommy DeVito has anything to do with that, but
maybe he should be here because the Giants are on a bye week.
Could be. We'll have to keep our eye out. Tommy DeVito, I mean, he got, what is it? So he got 2 straight wins. Starting quarterback. Kind of run the state now, I feel like. He can kind of do whatever he wants.
How about an Illinois jumpsuit with the TD chain? You gotta get that going.
The TD chain that everyone on the internet seems to love.
How could you not?
Got that screenshot almost a year ago at the bowl game, and when he finally started his first game, that's when people rediscovered it. But about this game, Derek, going on in New Jersey today. Like we said, it starts a good stretch, big stretch for the Illini. Big Ten openers, not always easy though. We saw with Purdue going on the road, losing out Northwestern. Like we said, Wisconsin was not in Big Ten play, but they were able to claim home state over Marquette early today in a very fun non-conference matchup. A lot of teams are falling in a lot of these early games, and Illinois started 0-3 last year in conference play. Seems like they could really take advantage of being able to win one, get a few going in a row here. You know, you start the new year with Northwestern once you get back into Big Ten play. And it just seems like an opportunity to get a couple of wins in your back pocket and just go from there.
For sure, no doubt. I think that if you're an Illini fan, if you're watching around college hoops this week, you're probably building it more and more. So after last night, Northwestern getting it done in overtime against Purdue, then the way that Wisconsin jumped on Marquette, we're leading by like 15 or 16, I think, at half, and then ends up closing that thing out. Like, it's home teams are taking care of business.
Yeah.
You could throw in Indiana really handling a Maryland team that's struggling. North Carolina putting 61 points in the first half on Tennessee there in Chapel Hill. Kentucky blast Miami in a game. I thought, maybe Miami, they're playing well, can go in there. Kansas outlasting UConn last night in their home building. So teams are really feasting at home. That kind of adds to the momentum and feeling of like, all right, man, Illinois is going to really have to bring it today. You, of course, hope for not another slow start, which has kind of been something that has just been a lingering thing for Illinois that they've kind of had as a trend. I don't think they're overlooking this one by any means, and I think that talking to Terrence Shannon yesterday, it sounds like Brad really pushed him in practice this week. So I think he has their attention. They know this is a big game. I think going forward, though, as you probably forecast, you look at the point spread, it's within a 2-point. It opened as Illinois -1. I think it's now like Rutgers -1.5. This is thought to be a very neck-and-neck battle down the stretch. Can Illinois close better than they did against Marquette? Can they show more poise? Can they be tight-knit and cohesive in a building like this that can really kind of rattle you? Illinois has a lot of experience on their roster, but you're trying to get that experience together. Marcus Damas, Quincy Guerrier, Justin Harmon, guys that bring that with them. But can this team, figure that out together on the road here and really see if that can catapult you going forward next week and then just obviously beyond?
Yeah, you mentioned the slow starts there. Wasn't as much the case against Western, it felt like,
right.
But is that enough for you?
No,
you called it lingering. Like, it might be more than just lingering. I don't think they've proven anyone wrong on that yet.
They have not. No, you look at some of those games, especially early, like the Valpo game, you're down at halftime. EIU, you lack punch out of the gate. Oakland as well. The Oakland looks a little bit better than we probably thought going on the road and getting an upset against Xavier. But you cannot be half asleep at the wheel today. Do not be the team that takes 3 punches in the mouth and then tries to respond, you'll get too much juice in this building going, and Rutgers feeling good about themselves, which they're a very good defensive team. Offensively, they have some real liabilities. They don't shoot the three well. They don't shoot the free throw very well. I know that's going to sound familiar with what Illinois' challenges are a little bit as well, but you just got to match their intensity. Understand, especially, I know Paul Mulcahy's not here anymore. I know Geo Baker was kind of a scrappy guard, not here anymore. Those 50-50 balls, those loose balls, those effort plays, diving on the floor, just giving an all-out effort. Rutgers builds their program on that. Brad Underwood likes to say it and has built his program on toughness and effort and all that. So I think culturally and just in terms of like makeup, these teams are very like-minded and similar. So who can best the other one, and kind of that gritty. I said to you, we're walking in here, this is going to be the old Pizza Hut parking lot brawl, and who's tougher today and who can take more punches, I think wins.
Rock fight, the Pizza Hut parking lot brawl.
All the cliches.
Brad Underwood has a lot of those. I love each one of them. I hope you get a new one out of it today. Derek, as you look at this Rutgers team, you brought up Amori. For you, who is someone to key in on? Or at least, who are you going to key in on while watching this game, seeing how they're performing, how Illinois is matching up against them, and who do you think is that key as far as win or loss in this one?
Yeah, I think for Rutgers, you look at Andre Hyatt is a guy that he's their leading scorer, 12 points, 6 rebounds a game. But I really look at him defensively. I mean, he's built, like we obviously marvel at the way that Terrence Shannon is athletically. He's 6'6", 235 in terms of Hyatt. So a guy that is able to match him physically and strength-wise, and he'll really try to be the guy that is going to cut off driving lanes and try to slow down Terrence Shannon from getting into the rim, getting in the teeth of that defense. Although that is a strength for Rutgers overall, just the way they kind of collapse. But if Hyatt can make it difficult, make Shannon work for everything he gets, and obviously Rutgers can hang around and even take an early lead in this ball game too. And I think another guy on Rutgers is their transfer point guard from UMass. You look at Noah Fernandez. He's someone that a capable scorer, hasn't been the most efficient for them, but also someone that just plays with so much pace. And that's one thing you'll notice today if you haven't seen Rutgers yet, is you kind of think of them as a very gritty, physical, half-court, slow-it-down type of team. They are still pretty gritty and physical, but their backcourt is smaller and quicker. They actually want to play really fast. They're top 30 in the country in offensive pace so far. They want to they press you a lot. They'll throw out a 2-2-1, three-quarters court press, and Fernandez is really kind of in your grill, swatting at the ball, and they want to create a lot of turnovers and then run in transition. So if he's able to, and I think we wonder really against any team that kind of can pressure you like that, will Illinois' lack of a point guard really hurt them? Fernandez will try to make that so. Same thing with Derek Simpson, a good active defender at guard for them as well. So that's kind of what I'm keying on with Rutgers. If Rutgers makes Illinois labor for everything offensively, turn it over, struggle to get into offense, then they're playing the exact kind of game that they want to play. I think that would be bad news for Illinois.
All right, about 30 minutes now until tip-off here at Jersey Mike's Arena. The very first road game of the season for the Illini. Our first trip, first time we get to see them in a different environment that's not the State Farm Center. We've broken this one down every angle we can think of for the Illini and for the Scarlet Knights, Derek. I think it's time for a prediction. What do you think is going to happen in this one? 1.5-point favorite, you mentioned it. This one swung, started with Illinois, and then went back to the home team. It's 1.5 points right now. Feel a lean on this one? Any particular way?
If I were to bet it, I would probably bet the under. I think it's going to be a low-scoring game. I think both defenses are well-equipped to hold down the other. I think with Illinois putting a lot of focus around Cliff Amori when he gets the ball in the paint and making Rutgers guards trying to beat them, especially making Rutgers execute in the half court. But then also on the flip side, there's some kryptonite involved in Rutgers' defense against Illinois. The fact that they thrive at turning you over, they can kind of force you to be clunky offensively in the half court, which I think Illinois kind of already has a tendency to do anyway. So I expect a lower scoring game. Ultimately, I'm siding with the team that has Terrence Shannon. I think Terrence Shannon's the difference in this game. I think on paper, Illinois is definitely the more talented and the better team, but they're not playing in their home building. So that there's definitely something that you got to take into account for that. I do want to add one stat. You look at the last couple of home Big Ten openers for Rutgers. Last year beat number 8 Indiana. Year before that beat number 1 Purdue. Year before that beat number 13 Illinois. So they knocked out consistently ranked teams in their home building the first Big Ten game of the year. So the trends say, watch out if you're Illinois, especially with, again, what's happening around college basketball right now. But all that being said, Illinois 62, Rutgers 57, low scoring. Shannon makes enough plays to be the difference.
I thought I was picking low because I was listening to you talk about defense and grind it out. Like, all right, I'll pick a pretty low score. But we got similar scores. I'm going to go Illinois as well. Maybe I'm just trying to be positive. I don't know. I think this one's going to be a really close one. It's besides the Marquette game, which Illinois was definitely challenged in a different way than the rest. This one might be the most challenging game of the season so far for Illinois, just specifically because of the environment, being on the road for the first time, trying to, like you say, play as one unit becomes a little bit more difficult when you can't hear as well. So I'm going to go Illinois still. I'm going to go 61-59. So I'm going to keep it a one-possession game. I think this one's going to be close. And if it goes Rutgers' way, I feel like we kind of prepared everyone for that.
Yeah.
We were preparing everyone for every outcome because this one, kind of hard to predict.
I think it's going to be a tense one. And you think the Big Ten football championship tonight will be as close as that score prediction?
Probably not.
Probably not. No.
Probably not.
No, okay.
I don't think so. Definitely not as high scoring.
No.
Which is pretty easy to say about football and basketball, but
not.
we might see 20
You could make
points.
a 3 and walk off the court, maybe score more than Iowa tonight.
That's true.
That's our own personal football takes.
But football's done.
Yes.
We're done with football.
Yes, it is hoop season.
All right, Derek. Where can people spend their 28.5 minutes before game gets tipped off on Big Ten Network on Illini Inquirer? What can they go consume over there?
I have my 3 keys in a pick, as always, breaking down the scouting report for Rutgers, what I want to see out of Illinois today. I also wrote a feature yesterday highlighting what Terrence Shannon had to say about just Brad Underwood's approach at practice this week and really trying to prepare his team to have the kind of toughness you need to go in to an environment like this and win, and just to be ready for road games in general now that you're going to play your next 3 away from home. I know Joey Wagner wrote about just what's at stake over the next 3-game stretch and what Brad has seen in terms of areas of improvement and also things he liked through these first 6 games. So a lot to consume. I'm here for the post game. Jeremy, I know him and I will do a podcast afterwards as well. So look forward to that, and obviously consume you guys' stuff as well.
Yeah, wherever you're watching this right now, be sure to tune in after the game for Brad Underwood's full post-game press conference. Twitter, Facebook, YouTube, WCIA.com, wherever you happen to be watching. And then on air tonight, we'll have highlights plus my story from Piscataway here in New Jersey. Should be a very fun one. We're here all weekend. We're going to try and find some gabagool in New Jersey, I think. We have some time off tomorrow. Monday, getting back into the Red Dome, and we're going to preview some of the Florida-Atlanta game, which should be another very fun one for the second year in a row, playing on the early game on Tuesday at the Jimmy B Classic at Madison Square Garden. We'll be there as well, so look forward to that. We got you covered all week before Illinois heads off to Knoxville. Brett Barron's will take over for me at that point. He'll be headed to Knoxville.
We will.
Should be a fun one. A lot of travel in your future.
Yes, yep. Got to get it out of the way before the baby comes for me next month. And, it's tough to go away from the family, but also love these trips and very fortunate to be able to do it.
Yeah. I don't have a baby to go back home to, but I will be tapping out. Brett Barons will be tagging in for me. For Derek, I'm Andy. Thanks for spending your time before the game with us. Like I said, post-game stream plus our report coming up later on air. We appreciate you joining us and enjoy the game, everyone.